The colony beacon had been dormant for years, yet it suddenly flickered to life, broadcasting coordinates to a planet that doesn't exist on any map. The sound echoed through the desolate halls of the observation station, a haunting melody of static and urgency. Captain Meera Elwood, once a celebrated leader, now felt a chill creep up her spine as she stared at the flickering screen. The station, orbiting a dying star, was a relic of humanity's ambition, now reduced to rust and shadows. Dust danced in the filtered light, settling like a shroud over the remnants of a once thriving outpost. Meera's heart raced as she recalled the last transmission from her crew, their voices tinged with a mix of excitement and dread. They had vanished without a trace, leaving her burdened with guilt and unanswered questions. The coordinates pulsed ominously, demanding attention. Meera leaned closer. The old screen illuminated her face with an eerie glow. "What are you trying to tell me?" she whispered, the silence around her thickening like fog. A distant, echoing clang reverberated through the metal walls, sending her pulse racing. Was it just the station settling, or something more sinister lurking in the shadows? As she scrolled through the station logs, her breath caught in her throat. The record stopped abruptly at 3:17 a.m. on the night her crew had disappeared, yet the security footage showed movement hours later. Figures darting through the corridors, their faces obscured. A creeping sense of dread enveloped her. Something was wrong. Something had awakened. Meera's mind was a storm of memories and fears. She had always prided herself on her leadership, yet here she stood, paralyzed by the weight of the unknown. The flickering beacon called to her, a siren song that promised answers but threatened to unveil horrors long buried. The air felt heavy, charged with an energy that prickled her skin, begging her to explore the mysteries that lay beyond the reach of her understanding. With a deep breath, she steeled herself. The choice was clear: to confront the shadows of her past or let them consume her. She had to know what happened to her crew and why this forsaken place had come alive again. But as she turned away from the screen, a faint whisper echoed in her mind, a reminder of the darkness that lurked within. Was she ready to face it? Meera steadied herself, her heart thrumming like a caged bird as she made her way through the dimly lit corridors of the observation station. Each step echoed, a reminder of her solitude and the weight of the past. The flickering lights overhead cast long shadows that danced along the walls, distorting her perception of reality. She felt as if she were traversing a labyrinth, each turn leading her deeper into an abyss of uncertainty. The air was thick with the scent of rust and decay, mingled with the faint metallic tang of forgotten technology. As she approached the command room, Meera's thoughts drifted to her crew, her family among the stars. What had they seen? What had they become? The memory of their faces haunted her, each one etched in her mind, a ghostly reminder of her failure. The command room was a jumble of screens and consoles, some still flickering with data, others dark and lifeless. Meera activated the main console, its screen illuminating her determined expression. She scrolled through the security footage again, searching for answers. The grainy images showed fleeting shadows, and the timestamp blurred with each replay. But one figure stood out. A crew member, Ethan, his face twisted in terror as he glanced back towards something unseen. "What were you running from?" she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. The screen buzzed, and for a moment she thought she saw something flicker behind him, a dark silhouette that vanished just as quickly as it appeared. She leaned closer, her breath hitching in her throat. The static crackled, and the words "alive" flickered ominously across the screen. Meera's pulse quickened. Why would something that should be dead be broadcasting a message? As she delved deeper into the logs, a series of cryptic messages emerged, each one more unsettling than the last. "The Sky Watches," one read. "They know our sins," another warned. The more she uncovered, the more a sensation of dread settled in the pit of her stomach. Something was watching her, lurking in the darkness of the station. Just then, a loud bang resonated from the lower decks, jolting Meera from her thoughts. Heart racing, she grabbed a flashlight and moved cautiously toward the sound. The shadows seemed to stretch and warp, whispering secrets she dared not comprehend. The corridors twisted, and the flickering lights created a disorienting effect, making her question her own sanity. As she descended the stairs, she felt an unsettling presence, as if the very walls were alive, breathing with a life of their own. She stopped, peering through a doorway into the cargo hold, where the remnants of her crew's last mission lay scattered. The flickering light illuminated a strange symbol on the wall, a mark that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. What does it mean? She wondered aloud, her voice echoing off the metal surfaces. A sudden chill enveloped her, and she felt a presence behind her. Spinning around, she aimed the flashlight into the darkness, but found nothing. Just as she began to convince herself it was her imagination, a soft whisper slithered through the air. "Come back to us." Meera's breath caught in her throat. Was it the remnants of her crew or something far more sinister? The weight of her past pressed down on her as she realized she had to confront the truth. She had to understand the horrors that lurked within the colony and the very sky they had worshipped, or risk losing herself completely. Meera's heart raced as she stood in the cargo hold, the whisper echoing in her mind. "Come back to us." The phrase wrapped around her thoughts like a vine, tightening with each passing moment. She forced herself to focus, sweeping the flashlight across the room. The remnants of her crew's equipment lay scattered amid crates, but one object caught her eye, a data pad, its screen cracked but still functional. She approached it cautiously, her fingers trembling as she powered it on. The screen flickered to life, revealing a series of frantic logs from her crew, their voices laced with fear. The last entry sent chills down her spine. "We found something in the ice beneath the surface. It's alive. We can hear it calling us." The implications were staggering. What had they unearthed? She recalled the tales of ancient civilizations, long forgotten beneath layers of ice and time. Legends of beings that watched from the stars, waiting for the right moment to reclaim their domain. As she read on, the logs became increasingly erratic. "It knows our fears," one crew member had written. "It's feeding on our despair." The entries spoke of nightmares that plagued them, of shadows that moved of their own accord, and of an oppressive presence that filled the air with dread. The colony, it seemed, had become a conduit for something far beyond their understanding. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the far end of the cargo hold, snapping Meera from her thoughts. She whirled around, flashlight beam darting towards the noise. A crate had toppled over, its contents spilling out. A collection of artifacts, glimmering strangely in the low light. Among them, she spotted a small black stone, etched with the same symbol she had seen on the wall. As she reached for it, a wave of energy surged through her, a jolt that coursed from her fingertips to her core. Visions flooded her mind, images of her crew, their faces twisted in terror, their eyes vacant and hollow. They stood in a vast alien landscape, surrounded by towering structures that seemed to pulse with life. "We are Watchers," a voice echoed in her mind. "You will join us." Meera stumbled back, breath hitching in her throat. The stone felt like a key, unlocking a door to horrors she could barely comprehend. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices calling to her, promising understanding, power, but at a terrible cost. She clutched the stone tightly, battling the urge to succumb to its allure. "No!" she shouted, her voice a defiant echo in the dark. "I refuse to be a part of this!" She hurled the stone against the wall, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. An eerie silence enveloped the room, the oppressive weight lifting momentarily as the whispers faded into nothingness. But the moment was fleeting. The air grew heavy again, and the shadows began to shift, coalescing into dark figures that emerged from the depths of the cargo hold. Meera's breath quickened as she realized these were not mere figments of her imagination. They were her crew, their faces gaunt and eyes hollowed, as if they had been drained of life. "Help us," one of them pleaded, reaching out with a trembling hand. "We can't escape. It won't let us go." The sight twisted Meera's heart, guilt flooding her senses. She had left them behind, and now they were trapped in a nightmare of their own making. Desperation clawed at her as she stepped back, thoughts racing. How could she save them? The whispers resumed, urging her to embrace the darkness, to become one with the colony's forgotten sky. But Meera knew she had to fight, not just for herself, but for her crew, for the remnants of humanity that still flickered within them. "Stay back," she cried, mustering every ounce of courage. "I won't let you take me." Meera's heart pounded in her chest as the shadowy figures of her crew advanced, their hollow eyes pleading with her. She could feel the weight of their despair pressing down on her, a palpable force that threatened to consume her. But amidst the fear, a spark of determination ignited within her. She had to confront the darkness, not just for her sake, but for the souls lost in this forgotten colony. "Listen to me," she shouted, forcing the words through the suffocating silence. "You are not alone. I will find a way to free you." The shadows paused, their movements hesitating as they regarded her with a flicker of hope. The air crackled with tension, a fragile thread connecting them across the chasm of despair. Taking a deep breath, Meera gathered her thoughts. She needed to understand what had happened, to confront the entity that had ensnared her crew. "What did you uncover?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her insides. "What did you awaken?" The shadows trembled, and one figure stepped forward, the familiar face of Ethan. "We were drawn to it," he murmured, his voice echoing like a distant memory. "It promised us knowledge, power beyond comprehension, but we were fools. It feeds on our fears, our doubts." His expression twisted, a mixture of sorrow and anger. "We thought we could control it." Meera's thoughts raced as she pieced together the fragments of their shared experience. The stone, the symbol, what does it mean? She needed answers, a way to break the cycle of despair that had gripped them. Ethan's features darkened. "It's a binding, a connection to the void. It reaches into the depths of the mind, drawing out our worst nightmares. We thought we could harness it, but it consumed us instead." The shadows around him flickered, as if the truth itself was too heavy to bear. Meera felt the weight of their shared history, the burdens they had carried. "Then we have to sever that connection," she said, her voice resolute. If we destroy the source of its power, you can be free." With newfound determination, she turned back toward the cargo hold, where the shattered pieces of the stone lay scattered. The air was thick with anticipation, the shadows shifting restlessly as they sensed her resolve. "We can do this together," she called to them. "You have to fight with me." As she gathered the fragments, the whispers surged around her, a chorus of fear and doubt. "You cannot fight it," they warned. "It is too powerful." But Meera pushed through the fear, focusing on the memories of her crew, the laughter they shared, the bond that had once united them. With the pieces of the stone in hand, she returned to the center of the cargo hold, surrounded by the flickering shadows. "This ends now," she declared, her voice firm. "I refuse to let it control us any longer." Channeling her energy, she concentrated on the symbol, envisioning it as a barrier. "Together, we break this binding," she cried. The shadows hesitated, then surged forward, merging with her resolve. A blinding light erupted from the symbol, illuminating the darkness that had engulfed them. The whispers morphed into screams as the energy surged, tearing through the oppressive atmosphere. Meera's vision blurred, and for a moment she felt herself slipping away into the void. But then she heard their voices, her crew, united in defiance. "We are with you," they shouted, their strength enveloping her like a protective shield. The light intensified, pushing against the darkness that sought to consume them. As the blinding energy reached its peak, the shadows began to dissolve, releasing their hold on the space around them. Meera felt a surge of power coursing through her veins, the weight of their despair lifting as the binding shattered into countless shards, scattering across the cargo hold. In an explosion of light, the darkness retreated, leaving behind an eerie stillness. The figures of her crew shimmered, their forms solidifying for just a moment. "Thank you," Ethan whispered, his smile a mixture of relief and sorrow. "You saved us." With that, they began to fade, their burdens lifted as they transcended the dark grip of the colony. Meera stood alone in the silence, tears streaming down her face, a mix of grief and triumph. She had faced the abyss and emerged not unscathed, but stronger. As the last remnants of her crew vanished, the station hummed with a new energy, a promise of rebirth amidst the ruins. Meera looked out into the vastness of space, the dying star casting a warm glow. The forgotten sky had not claimed her. Instead, it had revealed the strength of the human spirit. With a weary but resolute heart, she set a course to return home, ready to share the story of a colony that had worshipped a forgotten sky and the indomitable nature of humanity that had triumphed against all odds.